email that you're live. So our video. Did you not get an email with that meeting? I just saw your.
I didn't, but I got it from Nora. I didn't understand why I didn't get it either, so
Well.
I have it now.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
I'm bearing peppermints.
Let's see. Wait real quick.
I wonder if you ever checked your email.
I do, I just did this afternoon,
I
and it
did.
pops up.
Oh my God, you might grab this.
When I sent it, I thought, I wonder if it opens during
Love these things.
non-meeting
Look
day.
at you.
I do,
I don't.
I do, because if I don't, I'll have 2,000 emails in between. I get probably 100 emails a day, most of them junk, but
If we're doing a special meeting or something, don't notify me through this because I'll never see it. Or at least just.
that's
tell me
why,
to go
that's why
look
the
at it.
last time I sent a text as well.
Yeah. Go look.
All right, let's wait a second. Might be
Through the
him.
door.
I think you're checking your mailbox. I thought I saw them.
I think that was cheap.
Is that cheap? Well, it's 6:04, so I guess for Debbie, one of the two of you can, if Wade
Comments?
Chair.
I am. Okay.
that way we can get the meeting going.
Do we start with the roll call, don't we? Hold the meeting over.
Cosgraves, absent Foreman.
President Schaffner.
Present.
Okay. And they're gonna have a motion on the minutes from the previous meeting.
I did read them. I move to accept the minutes as written from, oh, wait a minute, I can't.
We can't approve the
because I
minutes, we
was-
weren't here.
yeah, I wasn't
Yep.
there.
Okay, so we'll
Leave that on.
leave that on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, so visitors, do we have any visitors tonight? Just Chuck online.
Check on them.
We have an attendance, Dara Reedy. Of course, Brandon McCreary is also present, Tim Little, Brian Bidler, and Chief Tusty is also here, and the mayor. For goals, are we going over these one by one, or are we just kind of tabling those for an hour? Tim, do you have any updates on any?
I don't have any updates. I know we're still working on all of those. Just kind of getting my head wrapped around some of those 5-year plans.
Okay. So we'll give you some more time with that. Reports, we have village departments. I guess that'd be you again, Tim.
That would be me. Water treatment plant, this month we had a shut off list of 56 green tags is what we sent out. We actually had 5 shut off. It did not adhere to those.
So is the green tag is the one we're charging for now?
I think we got,
a green tag got a charge.
we got another.
We're starting that
Zero
next
year,
month.
Yeah,
No, it starts next month.
next,
Okay.
yeah.
December.
We're gonna put, we got a notice, we're gonna put on the fly on the next month's billing
Correct.
that's starting just the end of that month, that if you get a door tag,
You're gonna get assessed by $1.
So hopefully it'll shut all that down pretty quick. We hope. We're still continuing on new meter installs. Wastewater, all 4 membranes are still running auto. They're doing great. We did over 700,000 gallons yesterday. Or right at 700,000 gallons and never had no issues out of it. Sludge hauling, that should be completed by the end of the year. We have 3 bags we're hauling out. The South Central bill seems to be an average right now. I'm still working with those on their demand meter. It's going to take a little while for them to get all their assets done and things that they're checking out. Street department, leaf pickup, it's going to continue the rest of the week. Kind of kicked our butt there for just a little bit, but we got caught up pretty quick. So,
What,
yeah.
what is going to be our official last day of that? That was
The second Friday.
This Friday is.
This Friday is the drop dead date. Yes.
Have we had any overflows in the last 60 days? I don't think we have.
No.
No.
Nope. Maple Street storm, we'll try to get that complete this week. There's some grading we got to do and things like that. So, weather pending, it's kind of wet to get there right now. As far as projects go, our corner project is a 2-inch force main, 256 and 37. PTI has been submitted. They come back with some comments last week. Engineering has went ahead and exalted those comments. So we should see that. Contractor should hopefully be here next week. I talked to him not last week, the week before last. He's expecting to be here next week. So that shouldn't take him maybe a week and a half. What he's thinking. Eagle Scout project. I met with Storm Wolfle and his father. They come in to make sure that everything was still okay on Alt Park. They really cleaned up around the overlook, and I've seen that they've been out there and they've been spreading mulch. So they've really been on that here the past week or so. The list's actually looking pretty good. They put a new sign up, new box, the mile loop around the hall. They're doing pretty good on that, it looks like. And then east side drainage, I got an update from V3 today. Everything's been initiated. They're contacting a lot of different people on this. ODOT is one of their biggest people they've got to try to get a hold of yet, and Frisco County Water and Conservation. Once they get any kind of updates, they will definitely be doing this over to us.
Okay, so nothing's really moved forward on the east side stormwater project, but V3 is working.
That's correct. V3 is working.
Okay, Park and Recreations, have we done anything with the new Park and Recreation Board?
Not yet. Need to identify who we want on it to get it started probably January-ish. I mean, we know we got the park users.
Right.
We just got to get the contact out to the park users in the office who've been, in flux.
Is there gonna be one council member on that? One minute.
We had it reporting to service. I'll have to pull it up. I don't remember if we had a council member on it or not.
Well, normally on something like that, we have one council member like BDRC that's
Right.
on it so that they can report back.
I know we had
Chuck was on the park board.
on that park board. I'll pull up the last one because I don't
Say,
remember
this
the
one, I don't
exact
think we
makeup.
appointed anybody if we are indeed going to.
Yeah, we haven't appointed anybody yet onto it, because each park users, DYBA can have someone, we gotta get them the information to say, who do you want to be this contact? You want to be the president, vice president, or just, some other person, responsible parent within your organization. I'll make a,
Because they asked about it, and I guess their fundraiser was very successful.
Yeah.
Fundraiser, I think they're planning another. So we'd like to start making some things happen out there. BDRC, anything to report?
We have our holiday market that is coming up on the 3rd, which is next Saturday. And that will be over at Johnson Park, held on Park Avenue Boulevard. Park Drive. Park Drive, there we go, right in front of Johnson Park. So, and that is from 2 to 6. We will have that street shut down or from 12 to 8.
Moving on to old business. We talked about the East Side Drainage Project already. Yes, we already have the cap trash contract. I think we all had something in our emails about that. Has that been signed yet or going for approval? Here we're discussing that and recommend to council whether or not to approve it. Or is that already-
I think we have the ordinance on, but I think Jeff wants us to hold off on it. The most recent conversation with Rumpke was they've updated their number. So what was sent out today was addendum, and it was numbered 1 and 2. The number one was the one that we got several months ago. Number 2 is when they run updated numbers and realize they were losing too much money, so they upped their rates. They have a meeting with Pickerington later this week to discuss these new rates. If their talks with Pickerington, the rates are lowered and changed off of this, we will get that lower rate as well. So the worst case scenario is this is our maximum rate, which it goes up a little bit, but I mean, $14 a month isn't too bad. It's just more than we're used to.
Well, it's $6 diesel.
Exactly.
You're gonna get it.
And I
That's just the
think,
way
I
it's gonna
think
be.
that's probably because they also redid their forms. So what we have for addendum 2 is essentially the worst case scenario. If when they talk with Pickerington talks them into a lower rate, however that is, that rate will then be extended to us as well. I did not get a chance to talk to Jeff today about whether, and he'll be here for council though, so he can tell us whether he's comfortable with us proceeding, but we have another council meeting, so it can stay on for a 3rd reading.
Well, we don't have an ordinance yet. Jeff was waiting until this is finalized before we put
Okay.
one up.
So I guess the question becomes then is do we want to stick with this in should have had Jeff come early because he also had the issue about do we have to put this out to bid? Because of the way it was so many years. So I guess for now, the discussion would be, are we okay with these rates if we don't have to put it out to bid? If we do have to put it out to bid, then it obviously goes out to bid.
I mean, so Pickerington put it out to bid,
Pickerington, it
but
doesn't,
only got one bid, I thought. My understanding.
so I don't know if Pickerington put it out to bid or if they just said, we have the existing contract, we're gonna do a new one. And I think that's where Jeff was trying to get some clarification, because the contract only had one renewal in it. So I think Jeff's, at the last meeting, his opinion was we have to put this out to bid. But then he was doing a little more research to see if we actually have to do that, because we didn't put it out to bid the last time we piggybacked on the Pickerington.
I think that if it was required to be done, I would have thought they would have been. required
They would
to
have
do it.
done it, and then we piggyback on
Piggyback on
theirs.
their bid. I would have thought.
Yes,
I don't know why we would be required to if they weren't required to.
right. Right, and the last time we piggybacked, we didn't put out our own bid because it would have been much more expensive.
Right. When's it good to?
Technically, December 31st. There's the provision in there if we don't have the new one, and it could extend for
6 months.
6 months.
Oh,
So we get the time to do it.
plenty of-
So I guess the question is, if we're okay with those rates and don't want to try to find someone else. Jeff, when he gets here, we'll see if he has the ordinance and what he wants us to do tonight. So the last I heard was there's a meeting with Rumpke and Pickerington this week to discuss the change in rates and if there is any change that will be passed on to us as well, for the benefit of that market as well.
Okay, new business, resolution 2022-45. Is there any action needed here from this committee tonight?
I was looking because it was about the ODOT.
Looks like
bridge.
something new to me. I haven't seen this before.
So this ODOT bridge, they're responsible for the bridges on the,
No, that's the ordinance. I said the resolution.
oh,
The resolution's about the natural hazards mitigation plan for declarations.
oh,
We just take a vote to send that to council.
yeah, that's a standard, pretty pro forma thing we do every couple of years.
Yeah, actually, both of these look like they were pretty much, we weren't really spending any money. We were just authorizing. So, and a motion to send this resolution to council.
I do, I move to send resolution 2022-45 to council for consideration.
4 seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, there's an ordinance 2022-46, and that just looks like we basically authorize ODOT to check our bridges and make sure they're not gonna fall down. And that sounds like a pretty safe thing to do. And so I just need to get a motion to have this sent to council.
And just for, so they're responsible, and it's very similar. Remember when we did the paving, when ODOT did the paving, we had to pass the ordinance to allow them to pave their road within the village limits. This is, we passed the ordinance to allow them to inspect their bridges inside the village limits.
But I think this one, they're including all the bridges, aren't they?
Yeah, they're including the one on, right there by the paper mill on Water Street, which is not part of their state route, but it is definitely pointing out.
It is definitely one that is subject to potential damage.
Exactly.
As you well know.
And this is in no cost of the village.
Okay, so we're not spending any money here. I don't think it's too big of a decision. Can I get a motion to send this to council?
I will move to send ordinance 2022-46 to council for consideration.
4 seconds. Roll call.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass 2-0.
Okay. I think that finishes our agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I didn't know, well,
Oh, next meeting is
I have it as, because it's not next month, I have it as January 23rd, 2023.
yes, because we usually cancel the last big meeting. Did we already make the decision to cancel the second meeting in December yet?
Before you adjourn, though, I was wondering, earlier today, I passed out the second draft of the budget. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that during this time or.
Plenty of time.
We've got, yeah, we can do it now or during safety, because safety doesn't have a big agenda. Everybody's here. And it's pertinent.
We can probably just
Um,
announce this next meeting, wrap this one up, go to safety, and talk about the budget until council time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so council typically does cancel the last meeting of the year. This year, it would be December 26th, the day after Christmas. I anticipate someone making that motion during council in about an hour. So I think you're probably pretty safe to say the next meeting would be January
23rd at 6 p.m.
23rd at 6 p.m.
Okay. Now can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay. 40 seconds.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so meeting closes at 6:20.
Very efficient. Safety will get thrown to whack by discussion, I'm sure. Whenever you are ready.
All right, so it is 6:21. I'm going to go ahead and call the safety committee to order. Roll call, please.
McCreary,
Present.
Keller,
Present.
Present.
And just for clarification, Chuck is present, but because the ordinance expired, the state law to allow to vote, you can participate, talk, member of council, but any votes, he counts as an abstention or a not present.
All right, and in attendance, we also have Councilperson Schaffner, Foreman, Mayor, Chief, Mr. Little, and Goodwin, Fiscal Officer. All right, approval of the minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll second that. Visitors. Let's see if we have any
All in
visitors.
favor on the minutes.
Oh, yes, aye.
Aye.
And Chuck can't vote?
Chuck can't vote. That expired.
In June.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and visitors, we do not have any visitors present. Goals, I don't have anything listed. All right, so reports, Mr. Little.
We're continuing the safety council at Fairfield County that they finally got started back up. We were trying to send different individuals every time. That's really all I have to report at the moment.
And Chief, Police Department.
Thank you. We, the three officers are in, new officers are in training. That's coming along really well. We have them equipped with everything except their ballistic vests, and there's a delay on that because of the grant we get, which doesn't come into effect till after the first of the year. So instead of us having to pay $1,400 to $1,800 vests, we pretty much get it for free. We found a couple older vests for them to use that are still in warranty, I guess you would call it. So they're good with those for a while. We have the two cars that we're buying and being reimbursed by the school are going to be picked up on Wednesday. And those are both in Michigan, so we'll be able to pick those up and get those back. We still have to put the light bars, sirens, markings, all that on the cars. But everything except for the markings, we're going to do in-house. We have two people that's capable to do that, and we volunteer to do that. So that'll save us about $600 a car, something like that. Other than that, we're trying to finish up mandated 24-hour training that the state dumped on us at the last minute. And that's been a real hassle, to say the least. But we're real close now. I think probably within the next 3 to 4 days, everybody will be finished with it.
I have a question on vests, because we get the grant to get them. We don't mandate them, because if we do, then we have to provide them.
Right.
And I was talking with one of the FOP attorneys and mentioning that, and vests have an end of life. But even once they end of life, are they still usable? I mean, absent being, I don't know how do you say, absent being shot, what causes the vest to end of life?
Every manufacturer has basically a limit of time that they say the vest is 100%. Whatever the rating is. What deteriorates a vest is body heat and perspiration, sweat, and it breaks the Kevlar down. The Kevlar loses its rigidity, I guess, and begins to stretch. And the more the fibers stretch, the more it opens up. The more it opens up, more likely it is something will come through. And one of the things that we have done or tried to get everybody to do is go to what's called an outer carrier. You put your vest in this and you put it on over your uniform. And the studies are telling us that it will increase the life of the vest from about 3.5 years to about 5 years on the vest. And most of the officers currently are wearing these over vests instead of against the body vest.
Okay. That, okay, because when I was talking with them, they were life cycling some vests. And obviously it's part of union contracts and requirements. And it just, when I was saying, we don't provide them, they were like, well, we're about to have a lot that are getting end of life. That just like vehicles, we're trying to figure out why we can't necessarily do that, but that makes sense if it breaks down the Kevlar and stretches. So, different steel plates.
Yeah, those,
A little heavy.
yeah, the ones with the plates or something, we really want to wear every day.
Yeah, okay. Well, there goes that idea. Okay, thank you.
Is that all, Chief? Okay, thank you. All right, old business.
Gordon Street.
That's one of the barriers.
That's the barricades. I'd say we probably leave this on because what I saw posted is the parade, the lighted parade this weekend lineup has everybody coming down Gordon Street to enter the back lot to get in line down Summer's Choice. Enter Gordon Street, go through the back parking lot and then line up on Summer's Choice to do the lighted parade down Park to Market and then Market all the way up to,
Reverse the parade.
they reverse the parade.
Okay.
Yep.
That would have been a big surprise.
Yeah, I did see a email or a link on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there will be some people that will accidentally line up down there, but for, as far as Gordon Street goes, I say we leave it on and see, because if we get any complaints with the weather we've had this week and the number of floats and cars coming in, I would expect we might hear something next week if it truly is a problem.
Well, I think when we did it, it was kind of a wait and see thing. anyway,
Yeah.
wasn't it? So we'll wait and see.
It has definitely helped us with the pickup on that road. Try to get turned around. It's just easier to get through there.
Yeah, without a keyhole at the end of it.
Yeah.
Having it blocked off was almost, it's
Yeah.
kind of a big problem.
It's-
Is this something we want to leave on or?
I would say at least until the end of the year, because like I said, with the parade this weekend, we'll,
What were our deciding factors, I guess? What
It was the
exactly
snow
were we?
plowing, you know, the plow.
Or even
snow.
delivery trucks that go down.
Yeah, I
there.
mean, 'cause
They can't
I
turn
thought we
around.
had kind of stated that,
A few years ago, we was working on the pool and there was a younger lady that would just fly down through there. She'd come off of Gordon and come around and she'd go back around. And safety issues, she's too much. With the pool being open, things of that nature, that's what we shut it down. That was the main, I think that was the main factor.
and. I don't
Yeah,
think it's
I
happened-
remember
I don't think it's
that
happened in recent
conversation.
years, but there was occasional nighttime driving through that may have gone back around or may have shortcut through the park a time or two to try to get near. But that hasn't been shut down.
This is what Terry provided back last summer about.
we
Gordon
discussed the
Street.
keyhole
Yeah,
turnaround.
options on to fixing it. It
Uh-huh.
costs 58,000 to do a cul-de-sac. If you want to put a connect the
So-
road's going to be 63,000, a combination of
And we
stuff.
said technically the gravel just had been put down and had kind of become a makeshift
Back end.
alley.
I mean, it's an entrance to the park.
Mhm.
It was an issue, a safety issue, but it doesn't seem to have been one so far this year.
Have we had any other complaints from the residents in that area?
Not that,
Not that I've heard.
I think the only complaint we had was please open it back up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
it
right.
was, It was.
So I'd
So-
say unless something changes.
yeah, I mean, we could take it off or we could leave it on and through the January meeting and see what we get. Because hopefully hopefully not, but before the January meeting, we will likely have a snow plow opportunity. Statistics say somewhere in December or January, we'll have some snow plow opportunity, and then the lighted parade and
It was open through festival. It's gonna be open through the market and the parade. So that, I mean,
And that would be, and that absent just general park use, those would be the biggest events and snow plowing will be the biggest issue. And if we don't get any by the next meeting, I think we can call it good.
Okay. All right, next on, under old business, parking issues at the corner of Mulberry and Main.
That's up here, brought up. I think that can probably stay on as part of the larger downtown parking that I'm working with owners. Gotta get the other meetings set to figure out down here the issue that pops up is when someone parks on the corner, you do have to pull pretty far out. I come that way and pull pretty far out. You just are extra cautious.
Yeah, I was on those, some of those side streets, that's the way it is on several of those
Oh, yeah.
side streets there,
Yeah.
especially at the top of that knoll there at the top of the hill.
Yeah,
The only solution there is gonna take away downtown parking spaces.
It's gonna
That's
take-
not really a good
I mean,
solution.
Which we already.
The other thing I was thinking the other day, I saw one and I was thinking to do there. Because the big issue, I mean, there's two issues. One, you gotta come out so people going northbound. But most of the people around here know that there's a road there and you're cautious and stuff. The other issue is when you're looking south at the northbound lane and get ready to go, someone comes flying up over the hill coming southbound. That maybe if we put one of
Right.
those, no, put one of the blinking hidden driveway signs up there almost. Or that would caution people if they're coming over the hill. Again, everybody that drives down through here, that lives through here, cuts down through here to Lancaster knows exactly what's there, and I don't know that that's gonna slow them down if they don't already go slow. over
Well, let me
it.
ask you a question. Have there been, I'm not aware of accidents or anything.
No,
happening
and
there.
Chiefs, because this came up about a year and a half ago as well, and there've been no accidents there. It's just something that pops up every now and then, so we do our best to keep an eye on it and see what we can do to improve, but
Sure.
like Rick said, absent taking away downtown parking, which we don't have enough of anyway, there's not a good fix.
Solution's worse than that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I don't think there's been any accidents. They're not even a fatal accident. They're not even a fender bender type. of
Everybody,
accident.
knock on wood really fast.
Yeah.
We talked about this last time, we pulled 3 years worth of records and there are not many reported accidents.
When the little pottery painting shop was the last business in that location, correct?
Mhm.
So now the coffee shop has been open.
Probably.
So it's really that issue where people are parking right there on that corner, because I know I went there today to get coffee and there was a car,
It's-
literally, so I see
It's
what
right
you're.
there, and then it's the spot right in front of the bank.
It's more when you go to pull out that street.
Yeah.
Just like it is one street over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like everybody said, we hate to take away any parking. at this point.
So I'm with Rick, the solution is worse than the problem.
Okay, so just continue to monitor. situation. All right, what about the one-way north on Company Street? I brought that.
You brought it.
And I have touched base with that resident. I've asked if she has gone around to, she's waiting to hear back from a few other residents on that street. So I don't have any additional information at this time.
Sounds like we'll leave it on.
New business, don't have any new business, anybody?
This is where you,
Brian's.
So we want to open up to the budget.
yeah,
Well, earlier today, I sent you. Which one was it? The second draft.
highlight the changes for us.
Yeah, in the numbers themselves, I highlighted the changes. Yellow highlights mean they've been updated based on new information. I've got a couple green ones. that I need some guidance on, like for instance, the general fund, based on the new officer that came on board. The OPNF number was modified. Medical hospitalization has been modified. Medical insurance. The highlighted, I'm just going through the highlighted numbers,
Okay,
as well as the. As well as dental, vision, and, okay, and then I said I revamped the percentages on workers' compensation based on, after I went through an audit last month, BWC audit. I went through one of those and I found out we ended up getting a refund because I was paid. But I wasn't aware of a couple of things, like for instance, I was supposed to take off numbers based on, since we're a section 125 plan of medical insurance, I'm supposed to back that off of our numbers, add in, include the magistrate and the prosecutor. I wasn't aware I was supposed to add those, consider they're paid under a contract, but I'm supposed to consider those. So all in all, I'm still overpaid the last couple of years. We got a $300 refund. So I went through and revamped the percentage allocation by the department. So to include all of those. So that's why workers' compensation went up slightly for the chief, adding on a fourth, adding on Emily. You'll see this and everything. Rick, you had questioned, you thought the number for repair and maintenance of land buildings and lands was low. So I just went ahead across the board, made them all $5,000.
Medical insurance hospitalization.
Mhm.
The difference between last year and this year is actually more than the increase that we talked about.
Yes, the reason why is because we had two full timers, okay, that could, were part of the insurance program. We had two full timers that were not. The new hire that was put on took the insurance. That's why.
And we don't know if the new VA will or not, but the old one did.
Well, if you're talking the police department, what page are you on?
I'm in general fund.
Yeah, he's on police, but yeah, it'd be the same for VA, the VA salary is split across multiple funds, so it's dispersed a little more, but
On page 8, I have a couple green numbers. Administrator and administrator staff. I need some guidance of what let me do with that. I'm basing this off Terry's wages and Barb's wages. I don't know if this needs to be updated.
Is that where the conversation, where we need to discuss our needs in terms of what
Well,
we're
I
gonna
just
need
want some guidance
for
on
our staff
what do you,
members?
what,
VA.
I guess
is,
I'm just letting you know, I need some guidance on where you want me to go with this. I know we're in the process of interviewing how many?
well, because that comes back to VA and application
Right.
process and stuff.
So I'm not saying I need an answer, I just need some
Well,
guidance.
why don't we go through the rest of it and get
Okay.
anything other changes, and then we can come back, because that's part of the larger
Mhm.
VA conversation.
And I see on page 9, Missy and I discovered the other day that I think our shredder's about ready to die. And it was making an awful noise. Now she did add some oil to it. It sounds better, but I'm thinking it's on its last legs. So I told Missy to look up some numbers and possibly get a new shredder. And so she saw it anywhere ranging from 500 to 1,000. I said, I'll just put 1,000 down and call it a day there. And if it comes under that, good. Green motor vehicles, that's need some guidance there on with the police chief. On what we're looking at.
And that's under there and not under the public safety.
No, that's a capital outlay expense.
Okay.
I just need some numbers as to how much those two other vehicles are gonna cost.
I would say, understand what I'm about to tell you is a number bigger than I believe. it will
Okay.
be.
That's fine.
But I think that there'll be sub 20,000.
So you're
So we
looking at,
do 40.
so you wanna do 40?
Would probably get us there.
Should I put 50 down just to make sure?
What I'm seeing right now is most of the cars that would fit a need are somewhere between 18.5 and high 19s. I mean, if you wanted to put 50 down, you could. I mean, all at the end of the day, it all goes back to the general fund to spend it anyway.
No, I'm not talking about. Oh, okay. I'm not talking about the school.
Yeah,
No.
no.
Oh, okay. Maybe put 45 just to be safe.
Yeah, to be safe, that would probably be okay.
Of course, I'll have to add that and we're taking out a loan to pay for these, similar to what we did last time.
That's what we're.
Okay. Although, of course, I'll fluctuate with the revenue side because I have to budget that we're gonna get proceeds for that. Okay. So that'll be a wash, basically. So that's what I got for the general fund. Street fund. Again, workers' comp and repairs and building lands is the only thing that I've changed. The only thing that concerns me now is I must have had, I don't know where I got my numbers from, but Tim's looking pretty peaky as a carryover next year. So we're keeping an eye on the street department so we can keep all of his little projects. I don't know what happened. I've been scratching my head on what happened because he had like $40,000 carryover and now it's down to like 2,000. I'm still scratching my head on that. The only thing that changed in the water fund is workers' comp and repairs for the maintenance of land. As you can see, Joey is now above the curve. Now that's assuming I did invoice Greif for half of the $73,000 payment that we talked about last month or 2 weeks ago. And the other half's coming in, so I factored that in. So that's Joey showing a surplus of 30,000 right now. If I don't get it paid by Greif, I'll throw in the full 73,000. That'll make it even better. Same with sewer fund. I always did was, workers' comp and repairs and buildings, land. I threw in 5,000 on top of the steel blower, on top of the 7. I think the steel for the blower room was 12,000. Is that correct?
Sure.
I threw 5,000 on in case something happens out there. And the only other change I had was on page 16. I changed the principal payments in both the sewer and water debt service funds. This time I've documented which ones I'm paying off. And I projected to pay off. Oh, can I? That's up there. Chuck can't see that.
He can if you share your screen. You want to learn?
Yeah.
So go to share screen
Where's,
The green thing.
okay,
and then select your schedule
yeah.
and hit share.
Oh, okay. Okay, so basically, where's my glasses? I selected this $38,000 one. That's for the water debt service OPWC loan. That's for the that's scheduled to be paid off in 2042. I've highlighted that one to pay off next year, and I've highlighted this southeast lift station, southeast lift station force main project that was taken out a while back. That eliminates 86,000, and as you can see, based on my formulas, I have highlighted them, and they are included in those numbers. So I know which ones I want to pay off next year. And as you can see, that was just to show you. Now, as you can see on the carryover and on page 16, we still have a variance of 100. We still have a good carryover for that next year. Trying to eliminate debt.
We can't pay off any of the ones that have interest because they're all,
You could. There's probably a.
'cause I mean, we get rid of $100,000 of debt. That's on one hand good, but it's $100,000 of free debt. It cost us
There's
that cost us $14,000 a year. If there's one with interest, we could pay off instead and save the interest, we get a bigger return on it.
Well, you can't pay off an OWDA loan early. That's one of them. You can't pay off the bonds. The other one is, and that's People's Loan Bank. And you're looking, we're still like 1.5 million on that.
So we can't pay off any loans with interest.
And the rate on that's like super low, right?
I can't remember what it is. Oh, I have it right there. I don't see what the interest is. Oh, it's 3.7%.
Yeah.
Are we paying off enough to recalculate the water and sewer debt?
That's the next thing I need to do.
We can't keep taking money from our
That's correct.
residents and saying it's for that, which it's really not.
Right.
So
I agree.
got a recalculation on that yet.
No, I have not recalculated that yet. I'd have to see first things first, I have to see what our obligations are for the next few years because, well, at least for the next year. I have to see what our obligations are in comparison to what we take in and versus what our carryover is.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we were already exceeding what our
I
debt
I
service
believe
was
we're getting
by
to the, I believe
more
we're
than I
getting,
would have expected, and now we're gonna do that even more so.
Right, but when you pulled up that chart, it was, well, one of them was $13,000 a year, the other was $2,000 a year, so you're looking at like $15,000 across 1,200 people.
Yeah, but we were already kind of over collecting, I thought.
okay, so,
But it
yeah,
might give us the ability to bank a little to pay off some of the one with the interest that we can pay off early.
yeah, we still owe 1.283 million on the water treatment plant loan.
Scroll down a little bit. What was the other one we're paying off? 13, how much is it a year? 13?
13,000.
13,324. So that's $15,000.
And if you guys wanted to, I mean, I chose this one, but we have another one where we pay 17.5 a year, right here. This is East Water Tower and Water Line Project. That was taken out in 2008, I believe.
Those ones where if we amortize it out, it's about a little over $1 per. But it would be an increase.
Yeah, well, or if we get this bigger one
Yeah, you get this bigger one
instead.
or in addition to it.
If you want that, do it in addition to that.
17.5 plus 13.3.
I'd be comfortable paying that one off, not both of them, because that's gonna cut it short. That'll cut it short. It'll take it down to 20 grand.
If we did all,
20 grand carryover? Yeah. Why is that such a bad thing?
Well, that's not a bad thing.
I guess on some of these carryover
I just-
numbers, to me, they're almost
I
embarrassingly
just
large.
I don't want to, I mean, if we want to, I mean, I showed you which ones. share screen.
So that would be all three of those
Chuck
would be
don't know what I'm talking about.
$32,000 a year divided by our number of users by 12 months. It's about $2.15. Because that 17 grand basically just doubled it, plus a little. Again,
What was our increase this year? That was the automatic increase?
That's just the
It's-
automatic
I know,
increase,
but how much was it?
3%.
3%, but that's on the production and collection side, not on the debt.
Right, I know,
Yeah.
I know, oh, I know that, I know that.
So it was,
So it's only 3% of the production amount, which is probably less than $1 a piece.
yeah,
I mean,
it would go down a little bit, not a lot, but again, it would go down.
I mean, I mean, this is, I guess my question to you guys. I selected this one right there, that 38,000. Rick, you're pointing it out. This one.
I mean, that's 122 when we got a 197 carryover. Or is that one a water one?
This is water.
That one's water,
Mhm.
that's sewer. So water has a debt. That's the 144 gives us 20. But that's still,
I like,
I mean, that's still just a little less than $2,000 a month cushion.
Yeah, I don't know why we need to hang on.
okay.
I mean, I'm one person in a room full of people.
I just don't want
Yeah, I agree. We can pay something off, go for you, you know.
I mean, I can easily that one or this one,
I don't think we're saying switch, I think
We're
we're
saying
saying
in
add.
addition.
add to it.
Add to it.
Mhm. That way
Still
there's,
got 20 carryover. That, I don't think that's,
and that's the debt service, so. I mean,
Right. And I'm pretty comfortable with those numbers. I mean, with the
so
number of people that pay into it, how much a month and so forth.
it hasn't changed much.
Yes,
It's not a moving target.
no.
So then.
If I was talking about a moving target here, I could see where your concern would be, but I don't feel like we really are on that one.
$20,000. Is there something else we can pay off?
Now, well, now that you're, I mean,
I'll be really happy if we do those three.
okay, well, you'd be really happy if you do those three, all right. Let me, that's street. I think the others are down. I mean, we have these other, this is sewer debt service. That is sewer debt service. Well, I've highlighted that one already.
Well, we got carryover on.
We have this one, too.
Sewer debt, you could add the 36 to it there.
Okay,
I just don't see virtue in the carryover. That's all.
okay, I will,
Surprising to me that we carried over.
I will highlight that one.
I like your 122.
That's what it's. And highlight that one.
You're gonna pay off all four of those? Have 20,000 left over.
Well, the
I-
20,000
Talking about
water
different
out of the
funds.
sewer, out of the sewer
Different
one,
funds. We have
Okay,
carryover
gotcha,
in both
gotcha, gotcha.
funds.
the sewer one will still end up with 150.
Carryover.
Yeah,
See, to me, that is not a
so is there
carryover.
another sewer?
Yeah,
No. Other than,
big one.
those are vehicle loans there.
So nothing other than the big,
That one's, this is water. That's the one this is one we just did this year.
Right. And we don't have enough left in there to do the work that.
right?
But
That one you can't pay off.
Can't pay off bonds early.
Yep.
And this
You can't
is,
pay off the
loan.
early. Oh, that's,
this is the People's Bank loan.
that's water.
That's water. And this is sewer, which you can't, OWD won't let you pay them off either.
Well, I guess, so when we say they won't let us pay them off, that's different than removing it from our balance sheet. If we had $183,000, and actually we do, you can earmark that for that and we can take it off the debt service. We have the money allocated for it, it's boom, and you can eliminate that. They won't let us pay it off early.
But we can set it over here in a holding
But
account.
we
It's
can-
already been earmarked.
It's already been
So we don't
earmarked.
need to collect any more money to pay that because we've
Right,
already allocated. the
we
money
can
to do it.
remove it from the balance sheet.
We just can't give it to them.
Correct.
Well, if you pay off those two that we talked about, you're not gonna have that to put aside.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, but
Talking about sewer, the one you can't pay off.
yeah, you were saying we can't pay this off early, though I almost get, we can't pay it off early. But if we wrote them a check for $186,000, they're not gonna say, no, you can't do that. Yeah, they'll take it and pay it off early. We just have to pay the full interest.
That's right, yep.
We
Oh,
can,
okay.
we don't save interest by paying it off early because that's how OWDA works.
Well, then but we take today's money and get rid of the debt.
But we can write them the check for the full freight tomorrow if we had it and remove it from our books. We just don't save the interest.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're
So-
saying. I see what you're saying.
There's not a benefit to paying it off early.
No.
But we can pay it off early and remove it from our balance sheet.
But, okay, I guess, all right.
I think you're making Brian nervous.
Yeah.
Okay, you're making me a little nervous now.
For sending all that money,
Right
No,
now,
not even.
let him wait.
Yeah.
Let him wait.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if we could get those four, I
I'm
mean,
gonna
that's
say,
making a
do
pretty big
that
dent
and-
for a single year.
Yeah,
We
do
can get
that
it hard-
and
that
then
hard to
see
get
how it
next year.
works.
and
Yeah.
see-
well, and maybe next year we can focus on that OWDA one.
yeah.
Well, if I do that, then you still want me to analyze?
No, don't worry about that.
Yeah, don't worry.
Say.
Oh, I'm talking about analyze what we're gonna need
Yes.
for next
We'll
year.
take off those 4 loans and then.
Okay.
And then we can
Debt
refigure debt
service
service.
requirement, yeah.
Okay, because that's 2023 tab. But as you can see, though, this is the one I like. Don't worry about the lines because they're not gonna be. That's the grand total, 7.2 million is what we owed. That's what our balance is going into next year. And I think when I first did this, 2018. It was 11 million. So
Nice.
we've knocked off, and of course, a lot of that was refinancing of the bonds, when we saved $600,000 over the life of the bond by refinancing those.
Yeah.
We went from 5.9% to 2.9% or something like that.
And we probably couldn't do that again today.
No,
No.
so we jumped on that at the right
We
time.
appreciate you, Brian.
So do we need to do anything to?
No,
let
I
Brian
just-
Do that, or
What's that?
did we like check with all the council members to make sure we're on the same page on paying those off? Or how do we-
I think the four's good.
Absolutely.
All right, I will run the numbers, update this. I'll update this.
I have a couple things I'd like to run by while we're talking about budgets. I sent a document that kind of takes us through the windows upstairs in regards to the windows on the top 3 floors of the building. And I noticed that you increased that to 5,000 versus 1,000, which all of us, I think we were like, oh, 1,000 for building maintenance and repairs probably is really low. But if we're considering those windows, if there's any money that we could allocate towards doing replacement costs, phasing some of those windows in,
Okay.
some of those windows, it's very much there is a safety issue.
Mhm.
So the document that I shared kind of prioritizes windows, and you can see specifically where the windows are located on the structure.
Mhm.
So I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. I know this is something that's been talked about for a long time and nothing has happened. There was an estimate for the windows years ago from Rosati. Let me pull up my. I'm not sure that we have to be updated, but it is a starting place at least.
I would think you would need to get some prices.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is based on, this is back. This was before the pandemic, so we're probably talking 2018, 2017. The estimate was $1,150 for each window plus labor. Now that was supposedly, that was a 35% discount on the price. So,
Why so expensive?
well, I don't know. I was not a part of getting those estimates.
Oh, okay.
Those are the numbers that I was given.
Okay.
It was how much per window?
1,150 each plus labor.
And there's,
That was for the large windows. The small stage windows were 786 plus labor. So again, with COVID and availability of materials, obviously prices are gonna change.
total, because I'm trying to figure out the,
No, we would have to multiply that out. So looking at the windows that, so I would just, if you want to bump that up to 1,200, and at least it's gonna be 1,200 per window at what?
40. How many windows are there?
10?
So the large windows,
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14.
I'm just looking at,
Double it by that for the other side.
well, I was just looking at level
I mean,
one.
it's a total of 45.
We don't need windows on this level. These are pretty new.
All right, so, well, if you just do 1,200 to 45, that's $54,000
So we
for
were,
all of them.
we were guesstimating around 50,000.
For all
That's just
three
to buy
levels?
windows.
That's just to buy windows.
Right, that's not the.
You're almost looking at double.
Oh, yeah.
So just to phase in, obviously not purchasing them all at once, but you can kind of get an idea in terms of the priority based on that chart. What we're looking at, some of them are definitely higher priority than others. We've already had one pane literally fell out onto the ground. There's another one that's taped together upstairs. So this is something I'd like to bring for council to consider at least.
Or are you?
I'm making a proposal.
I would support a proposal to allocate.
Funds
Funds
for,
for-
we can talk number of windows, if we want to look at the priority one windows. Obviously,
I mean,
What if we did 25,000 a year over the next 4 years, that's 100,000?
That would replace
them.
I was gonna say, it doesn't, at least from my perspective, doesn't make sense for us to figure out what priority is. It's
Which
the ERC
window
thing.
or whatever.
when they're all really
The
immediately
village would need
replaced.
to allocate the money and then work with the ERC to do the.
Decide which ones need to be done first, which one needs to get done next year, which ones need to get done
Yeah.
after that.
Okay.
So I would support allocating 25,000 over the next 4 years.
What is everyone else's thoughts in regards to that? Again, I mean, it's just gonna benefit.
And Brian, I think that would probably go under general government repairs and maintenance. buildings and like-
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll.
Eight of 17. If I'm looking at the right one. it's
I could probably throw
2017.
that under council. 715 since it's their building. I can just create a new line.
Well, and that would allow it to be tracked easier and not get mingled in.
This is all it is.
Yeah, that's all it is and not a lot and not.
Oh,
cause
you're
it
gonna
to
turn around and
mingle
do it
in.
again 6 or 8 years from now.
Right.
And that way then all the windows would also be matching them, piecemealing them. So it'd also be aesthetically pleasing, but energy wise, being now that there's a heating and cooling system up there, it really would be the best.
It's long overdue.
Okay.
So you're gonna add a repairs, maintenance, of building and lands under the 1,715.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As a code.
Oh, okay.
I'm also studying, so,
Okay.
I was trying to look at, so where are the wages for, I was looking hourly for
I have
village
that.
employees.
I have
essentially, is
that as
kind of
an
what I was-
internal spreadsheet of mine.
Okay,
I have it.
So we were all given that.
Yeah.
yeah, and how long ago was it? Let me pull that up, because I know I also have notes on that too.
I've got the 2013 matrix.
I got the wage matrix.
Yeah, wage matrix.
Assuming raises are gonna be given.
Okay. So, and this is just, so Chief, just a quick question. So the new SROs that were brought in, does the school district pay for those? So for 9 months out of the calendar year?
They pay for, it's set up so that every day school is open, they pay a day's wages, whatever that may be.
So what is that? So if we're talking SROs, not village employee, what is that for an SRO?
Hourly,
Yes.
it's $20 currently.
What is it if they are not an SRO and they're working the village?
Part-time,
Correct.
would be 17.
17 right now, yes. And the SROs are still village employee.
Right.
Be reimbursed.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the, okay. Full-time?
No,
For what are the full-time wages? Full-time,
for a full-time officer.
correct.
There's a wage matrix high to low, and I don't know exactly what that is.
And I got the,
I just say the only one I have is
I can tell you that
you guys that are salaried.
right now Devin makes, our current SRO makes 20.
I was just curious.
Our
'cause-
former SRO made 21. Chief would like for the current SRO to be bumped up to 21, and the new officer that came on board recently is going to be paid 20.
I've just kind of been looking at, I looked up the average hourly pay for Ohio. It runs about 24 average, somewhere in there. Did we have a hard time finding candidates for?
We advertise with using a service called Indeed.
Mhm.
So it went Ohio and all surrounding states. And we got, well, legitimate, we got 12 applicants. And we lost 4 of those pretty quickly when we talked money. We're just not.
So if we look at surrounding areas that are comparable, where do we fall in terms of hourly pay? So,
Like in this area.
sure, go
Well,
blue.
here's what I can tell you. When we announced, when the school system announced that they were going to contract us for SROs in the schools, as soon as that was announced, the sheriff's department raised their SROs to $25 an hour. So we're $5 below that for an SRO. That's, when we first came into this, the SRO $20 was based on where we thought that the sheriff's office was going to be with their guys.
So we have a span 17 to 20 is about where most.
Well, 17 is a locked-in number. Part-times are locked in at a given number. And then for a patrol officer, there's like a from here to a from here number. Now, I would tell you that it's, the way that's set up is probably not realistic, just because of the fact that, you can have an arbitrary, we could say a top pay for a patrol officer is $50 an hour.
Right.
Knowing they're starting at 20, they're never going to get $50 an hour.
So what about part-time? I'm thinking about other positions here in the village comparably. How many other part-time positions do we have besides officers that work for the village? Is that it? Do we have people that come in street, summer
Summer
help?
help.
What
And-
does
and
that, just out of curiosity, what does that pay per hour?
We usually pay 15 for that.
So 15, and what does that job entail?
It's
Mowing.
grass.
Mowing.
So mowing, all right. Okay. And
Yeah,
so
of course
the
you have-
officers that are carrying guns are getting 17?
Yeah.
I don't think that's. What?
No, I'm just thinking they should get a job at a hardware store. They can do just.
I mean, I'm just saying, I think
Of course,
at
they might be
minimum,
short there,
our
too.
officers should make $20 an hour. I'm sorry, but I think that was part of our difficulty in maintaining and keeping some of the officers. Am I mistaken?
Well, I think, one thing we got to, I think all of us in here know this, without even saying it, but, you know, we have kind of morphed into that whole Central Ohio thing. So we get a lot of officers that come in the door and they're looking for somewhere to go and kind of get a little time under the belt.
Uh-huh.
Then they leave here and they go to.
They go elsewhere where they pay more.
Yeah, well, you know, and I'll give you this. So right now, Dublin, Hilliard, or Westerville, after 18 months of service, you make $107,000 a year. Now, we obviously are never going to compete with that. But to be competitive, you have to at least for in county, for villages, I believe, be the top dog. If you're not, there's too many.
Well, at least in the market.
So if you're saying 20 an hour, and when chief, when we budget part-time officers, we do it, we budget 2,080 hours, one FTE to be spread across all part-time officers. So if we do part-time officers at 1751 is what they would be getting in 2023, we take them to $20 an hour, multiply that by 2080. We're talking a little less than $5,200 a year to bump the part-time officers to $20 an hour.
I can't imagine carrying a gun and being responsible for. So,
Well, if I can add this to this also, I think everybody probably knows this because I think I brought this up before. But other than a shirt.
well, that's what got me thinking about this. We talked about uniforms.
So these guys they're paying roughly $7,000 to go to police academy. They then come out, they're gonna put another, at least 3,000 into getting geared up. So it's, you know, it's not a cheap thing to do.
But even into the mid-20 range, we're still gonna be stepping stone.
I think, yeah, I think at some point you get to where you will get, I don't know what that number is,
Yeah.
okay? But I think at some point in that range, you get to a point that a guy that comes in here, well, let me use this for example. So Devin Holm has come in the door here and we started him at 20, we're wanting to move him to 21. His wife is a teacher at Fairfield Union. And he's like, this is home. I'm never going anywhere. You know, this is where I'm from. I grew up in Millersport. Why would I ever leave? So it's the thing of hiring a person that wants to put roots down. But on the other side of it, you get hire a guy like, for example, $20 and 5 years from now, he's still making $20. I mean, let's face it, $20 today is not
Right.
what it was 2 years
3
ago.
years ago.
We'll always have that potential of a stepping stone, but I guess it also makes us a little competitive because there are a number of officers, and I work with some of them in other jurisdictions that go through the academy through some of these larger agencies. And then they get into their field training. And police work in Westerville, Dublin, any of your Franklin County suburbs is a lot different than it is here. And some officers are just not as well equipped to handle that type of environment versus out here.
Right.
And I work with one, he was okay. I knew him when he was in a large agency and he was an okay officer. In a smaller environment, he is a great officer. Because he can build that rapport and do that stuff. So we would have that opportunity here. Now, if I could maybe kind of piggyback onto what Brandy was saying. So over the summers, our SROs, we got two things with the summer. Summers, we like to do targeted enforcements. But if we wanted our SROs to do it, they could, well, under Brandy's idea, when I was gonna propose that they were gonna lose $3 an hour. But if we add $8,000 to the part-time services, that gets the chief 40 hours of additional part-time coverage for the approximate 10 weeks between school letting out and school letting in to spread across all the part-timers for targeted enforcement. Now, it can be used throughout the rest of the year too, but that would be my primary goal because we have two officers that know the village. maybe they don't want to work as much, maybe they do, but that way we would have that available. And even if, and I just did it at $20 an hour, that's $8,000. At Brandy's 5, we're adding $14,000 to get the officers up to $20 an hour and adding 400 hours of coverage.
Could that possibly also help, because we're also looking for code enforcement? So is that something one of the officers
I would prefer
Potentially.
not. I would prefer an officer not do code enforcement. They can serve summons and stuff like that for it and help us, but when you start,
who's currently doing that job?
yeah. And he's
That's
literally doing it because there was no one else. It was Terry and then she
Okay.
needed help, so Brett would help. It's not ideal.
So that typically would be another person or someone taking on that role, or like a,
Code enforcement, there's enough code enforcement here. Code enforcement's weird. End of October, November through March, it gets slow. Because people are inside and it snows and it's cold. From March through September, October, if we wanted to do true proactive code enforcement, so we're staying on top of, hey, you've got a pile of junk, so they get a letter, as opposed to, oh, now you've got 10 piles of junk, so we're writing into court. There's probably enough, it would ebb and flow, I would say an average of 20 hours a week. So some weeks to get in March and April, September, October are not going to be as busy. A lot of it will be in the crunch time in this late growing season in summer. When all that occurs, but
so what you're saying is that is not something that one
is
of the
not part of the
officers, okay.
police fund. And again, chief's been great with letting officers do it, but ideally it's its own person.
All right, well, that answers
For
one of my
a couple
questions.
of reasons. That, not just code enforcement, but, sometimes people don't like code enforcement and since Brett's doing it, if he writes someone a code violation and then he has to go talk to them because they might have information on a crime, it creates that, he just gave me a code violation and now you want my help.
Well, so those numbers are interesting. I think that would, I guess I would like to say, I would like to propose adding $8,000 to that line of budget to kind of bring them up to where, and again, this is what I think,
Just clarifying, 8,000
or overall in the line for the budget.
well, because
So bring them up for the $5, bring them,
5,000 would bring your proposal up to get them up to $20 based on.
but then
current
you added
numbers.
in something.
But I would like $8,000 added in so that we have an additional 400 hours of coverage. So that gets you 8 and 5 is 13. So 13,500, 13,000.
We talking about? Which one? Part-time law.
So for the
Part-time
additional
officer.
coverage in the summer,
Okay, but what do you want to pay then?
20.
20,
You can't. Pay right here.
okay.
The maximum allowed for next year is $19.69.
Guess what? Council makes the rules, and when you don't like the rule or need it to change, you have the power to change it.
Well, that's true. That is true. And I just want to point that out.
So
in-
1969.
In maximum.
In order to do that, you could change the pay plan, and that's just an ordinance Jeff would have to prepare for the next council meeting.
Okay.
We could do it.
Just in looking at the different numbers and then when I heard some of the other part-time numbers, which those are also important, but I definitely think that,
So you want to increase that $95,000.
By 13,000.
again, that's my proposal. What do you ladies think?
I'm just wondering what it does to the bottom line.
Well,
Takes 13,000 out of the carryover.
but it also affects OPERS.
Yeah, you got the benefits.
Well, they're part-time, so we would add 10%, so it adds $1,300 to PERS.
No, it's actually close to 15% is our.
Oh, because we gotta pay 14%.
10% is their share.
So
So 14.
13, so 15, so that's 1,500, so it adds $15,000.
14,000.
So it takes away $15,000 from the $480,000 carry.
Even with paying off those four.
Those are
This-
separate funds.
This is general fund.
Yeah, because you can only.
Oh,
use
got
this
it,
for
got
general.
it, got it, got it. Got it,
Yeah, so the 400 something carryover is just general fund.
got it. Perfect.
Hey, Brian, you had the surplus next year to pay for that kind of raise?
Yes, Chuck. Right now, the projected carryover is 450,000. Of course, it's gonna take a hit by adding 25,000 for windows and so forth.
But I think the last time we had a meeting in October, the chief was also asking about cars down the road.
Yes.
Okay. You know,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, I projected the expense for that, but we're taking out a loan, so that's a wash. That's a wash. But I did budget money for debt retirement, which is, I increased that a couple thousand above what it was this year. Because I don't know those numbers yet. So adding two new vehicles is not really gonna cost that much. Other than debt retirement. Does that answer your question, Chuck?
Okay, yeah, I'm just asking because I knew I remember we was going to add 2 cars. I think that's what the chief said. But, I'm not saying they deserve 17 or 20, whatever. But once you give people a raise, and I don't know what the percentage is, I didn't figure it up yet from the 17 to 20. You can never go back down. You know what I mean? If you bring them in at 20 and next year you bring them in at 20, you can never go down. You always have to, you can't cut somebody's wages. I mean, you can. I mean, the city, the village is always about the same size. It's been the same size for 40 years, or if not more. You know what I'm saying? I think our income, how much is our income has gone up over the years in the general fund? You have any ideas? And I'm not against it. I'm just saying, aside the village, you know what I mean? 3,000 people, it's still 3,000 people. I can remember that 40 years ago.
But it's 3,000 different people with more.
Income, I'm hoping.
Change in tax
Income.
revenue, change because of house values and things like
Yeah.
that. So everything's moving up, whether it's like it or not. It's
And-
moved up a
Well,
lot.
and I'm gonna throw something in there too. If we're gonna give these other guys a percentage raise, let's say it that way,
Yes,
then the other officers should need that percentage raise.
The full timer?
Yeah, like the chief and the full timer and, I mean, whatever we're giving these new people, that
You're
percentage,
making a proportionate adjustment.
absolutely, absolutely.
When we were talking wages for village employees, was police not in that conversation?
No, we just did service
Okay,
last year.
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, we just had this conversation.
Yeah, because I
No,
remember
no,
the
no.
3%.
The police department got that raise too.
Oh, did it?
Yes, they did.
because we brought them up from the 15 to the,
Everybody got 5% raise. last year.
Everybody got the 5%, but when we talked about the wage readjustments,
Wage readjustments, yeah. I mean,
like when we did like, if you got a CDL, you got extra
Yes.
money and.
Yeah, but we did more,
We
we
did
raised
more-
the ceilings at that time too, and when I heard you say we're on at 19,
Well, yeah,
I
that's,
thought we
that
raised
was,
the ceilings. I was like, well,
well,
not to say we have to pay that, I'm just saying, I thought we raised the ceiling.
I don't recall doing it for police. I think because we were so focused on making sure all the service
Right.
team was.
Right. I just remember we went through and there, on a few of them, Chuck felt we were going too high, but the bottom line was that was the ceiling. That wasn't necessarily what we were going to pay. And it sounded like we bumped into a ceiling again already. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Well, just on the part-time,
Okay, well, I thought we moved all the ceiling.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the percentage needs to be raised for the full-time.
I think to be fair across the board.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So Brian will have to figure out that. Well, it's a $2.49 increase. To-
Yeah, I don't want to get ourselves in a corner. I can remember 10 years ago, maybe, Chief, you might remember when we were, I think the police, the police department would run around 300,000 and we've been going up every year. And I could be off the figure because I'm not looking at anything. I don't want to get ourselves in a corner that we keep raising everything. Then all at once we're going to say, oh, now we've got to put a levy on the, for the village. And that's not going to pass. We tried that. I just don't want us get into a corner. We can't pay ourselves.
But can I add one thing? Just, and just keep in mind that you're right. I remember those 300 and some $1,000 days, and it's tough. And that's the reason that the police department has entered into agreements with Poston, Pleasantville, whatever.
Yeah.
So we're doing something police were never set up to do, and that's become
Generate
a
revenue.
generator.
Service provider.
And
So we're, what is it about? That'd be about 150,000.
Yeah, if you look at page 2, Chuck, do you have page 2 in front of you?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, this year we're bringing in approximately 90.
it's 100.
It'll be 100, it'll be 100,000, close to 100,000 in police contracts. That number
Between
goes up
Thurston and Pleasantville, okay.
in the school. Well, that
Okay.
goes to 155,000. With the 2 SRO officers, they're paying for that 100%.
And I don't know, I mean, the way general funds work, it's hard to tell, but I'm trying to look up. I know Chief, the police department historically doesn't use everything we allocate.
And does it roll over?
No, because it all goes back into the general fund. Because it's not like the proprietary funds that it has to stay there. So anything that's not used that was encumbered at the end of the year goes back in. We could line item it and allow it to roll over, but in general, it just rolls back in. to the
Okay.
general
The
fund.
general fund.
Have we ever had a year that we haven't turned money back in? I mean, I'm not talking a couple $100 either. I'm talking.
And all the departments do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
some of these numbers, I kind of go on the high end
Yeah, right.
So do,
to cover.
so it sounds like a big percentage, but that's only because the numbers are small. So from going from 17.51 to 20 an hour is a 14.2% increase.
4.2.
14. Yeah, it sounds big because it's small numbers. It's the $2.49 an hour raise. So the full-time officer then, Brian, you just have to figure that out. And
Just
So you want to go part-time as what, from what to what?
to 20.
17.51 to 20.
And so whatever the full-time officer would be at next year on the hourly for the patrol,
Well, on Chief Tessie.
I will, and I really appreciate that. But what I would tell you is, and at some point, you're going to hire another chief. And you're going to have to be competitive with what that amount is going to be, quite honestly. But at this point, I would tell council that I'm very happy with what I make right now. So we could take that off the table and I'd be okay with that. But I appreciate that we're trying to do something for the officers. That would be,
for instance, Brian, for Brett at 21, next year we'd go up to 21.60.
Well, no, he's reverted back to the part-time.
Oh, he reverted back to the part-time. Well, we'll just use that as an example right now. So if the full-time patrol officer is getting 21 and it would go up to 21.63, it goes up an additional $2.35. So that would get it up to 23.98. Just pull that number, email to me tomorrow. We'll walk through it.
Yeah, I know,
It's
no, I
just
understand
that
what you're saying,
14%.
but, okay, now, you're not talking about, we're getting past 7:30 now.
Right.
We're not talking the recently hired one, right?
So the recently hired
Hired
ones
2 weeks ago.
came in at 20.
And that was set by the school.
No, I'm talking about the other full-time officer.
Emily?
Yes,
If we didn't bring her in at 20, she needs to be at least 20.
She brought her in. I think she's.
Okay, so if she brought in at 20, then we should be good.
okay, because I just want to throw that out there. I mean, she started 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, that's fine. If we brought her in at 20, then we're good there. We're at
That's
our,
good.
I'm good with that.
we're at our
Yeah,
rates.
that's good. I think that's reason.
Okay. I think I've taken my notes if I forget something.
We had the safety meeting or we haven't yet?
Not yet. I mean, no one's here, no one's online, so if we go a little bit
Well, we already
later
have.
while we're on your budget, or
Okay.
are you done with budget? And
Yeah, those were the notes that I wanted to cover.
Because I can revise when in a week, 2 weeks anyway.
Okay.
But I still would like some guidance on the administrator.
We'll talk to the EA and council then. So that we can end that meeting, and start council.
All right, I closed all this stuff out. Or anything else? We covered new business. Literally lost my document here.
I think that was it. You were done.
Yeah, I
think-
can't-
You didn't have, you
read
didn't
it,
have any,
sorry.
you didn't have anything else on new business, so.
No. So I guess if there's nothing else. I guess I move we adjourn.
I second.
I'm so used to my Apple format.
So we're tuning at 7:34.
All right, do we need a quick break before we go to council? All right.
Because where's my mouse?
Yeah.
We're still recording.
I don't know if that's.
Oh, it's still recording, I think.
Okay.
All right, then we will call the November 28th, 2022 council meeting to order at 7:39. We'll start with prayer and a pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the last is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Cosgray, absent. Foreman,
Present.
Keller,
Present.
McCreary,
Present.
Reedy,
Present.
Schaffner.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum and I did it for service. I'll do it for council. Chuck's present here, but because the law elapsed over the summer, he can participate with any vote. Chuck counts as an abstention. So we will move on to approval of the minutes, November 14th.
Foreman makes a motion to approve them as written.
McCready seconds.
Discussion? Roll call.
Foreman,
Yes.
Keller, staying. Keller, you staying?
Yeah, abstain. Extension, whatever.
You don't even have to call him,
Okay.
Brian.
McCreary,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
All right, minutes will be approved. Next is the agenda, and I think we need to add 2022-46.
It's on there, it's just misnumbered.
Oh,
It
is that-
shows it's 43.
It's 43.
46.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, that's misnumbered.
Okay.
My bad.
so we'll amend the agenda to say that 2022-43 regarding the ODOT bridge inspection is actually 2022-46. Okay. Motion to approve the agenda then.
Foreman makes a motion to approve it.
Reedy second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. No visitors, no visitors. So let's move on. To my report, I'll hit VA application stuff in new business so we can get through the rest of business and then go to that because that goes into budget and stuff as well. So just still got to get a date for downtown parking. It's with the holidays, it's difficult to get everybody in some of the businesses all around. It seems to have been easing out, but that's probably because of colder weather and there's not as many people around. But hopefully the business owners will still be interested in coming to a meeting so that we can talk about downtown parking for when it gets warm out again. We get in service. The downtown parade or the lighted parade is this weekend and they reverse the route. It's after the BBRC Holiday Fest,
Which is on Saturday.
So
And the parade is Sunday.
Sunday.
the parade is Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry if I caused confusion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was.
Yeah, they're separate days and times, so. Other than that, it's been, for me, budget and working with Tim on little administration things. He's doing a good job and plodding along. And with that, if there's no questions for me, I'll turn it over to him.
Okay, water, we had the 56 shut off, the green tags. Actually shut 5 of the 56 off. We will be doing something with that, I believe, in the next, which will not this bill. Meter installs continue. The wastewater plant membranes continue running auto, sludge hauling to be complete by the end of the year. And we're working with South Central Power on the leak pickup be done by the end of the week. Maple Street storm should be complete. Streets, project reviews. The corner project, Stevens Force Main, PCI submitted, reviewed, revised, and we should have that back next week. Again, Storm Wolf is doing the Scott project at Oak Park. He's doing a good job, spreading mulch, making signs. And V3 with the East Side Drainage Project. It's all been initiated, but we're in contact with ODOT and Fairfield County Water Conservation and waiting for replies.
That's it for me. Any questions? It helps when we had service right before.
Yeah.
All right, Brian.
He just reminded me when we talked about the relocation of the sewer line. Remember, couldn't figure out. I need to add this year, but it don't look like it's going to be done between now and the end of the year, so I need to add that on to next year's budget.
Don't forget to add in the revenues because it's reimbursable.
That is, well,
Because it's a like for like.
yeah, that's,
We have to put out the money to do it and then ODOT gives us the money back. So it's a wash, but so don't forget to add that in the revenues. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Jeff,
Two new pieces of legislation on for first reading. They both have emergency language, but they can't be passed tonight on an emergency basis because you don't have enough voting council members here to suspend the 3 reading rules. So they'll be just on for a first reading both this evening. And there is an attachment, as Debbie pointed out, to the ordinance with regard to the ODOT bridge inspection program. I'll scan that and circulate it to all the council to have that in time for the next meeting. And that's all I have.
moving on, finance.
Okay, Mayor, I wasn't at the last meeting, so maybe somebody can give a report. But our next meeting will be December the 12th at 6 o'clock.
Yep. And finance, pretty much everybody was here. Brian went over the budget and we talked about the Greif mill balance. And that was finance. All right, service.
Service met tonight. I believe everyone was here and covered everything. Our next meeting is January 23rd at 6 p.m.
Safety.
Yes, Mayor, we met this evening. Ms. Reedy and myself were in attendance. Tonight, we basically talked a lot about budget. We also talked about the cars that the police are going to be getting in. And I think that's about it. Our next meeting is going to be held on January 23rd, 2023, which sounds crazy. 6:45 or immediately following service.
Rules.
We did not meet tonight, sir, but we will meet after the finance committee, December 12th.
So it is. Sounds right. Chief, police department.
We have 3 officers in training currently. Let's see. They're spending time, the SROs have been spending time with our SRO, getting to know the schools, walking around, meeting some of the teachers. We have 2 cruisers that will be utilized as SRO cars that will be picked up this coming Wednesday in Michigan. And we hope to have those all outfitted pretty quickly. We're finishing up our mandated state training. Hope to have that done by the end of this week.
Fire board.
Fire board met November 17th. One thing I would like to mention about something that came up in fire board, just so people are aware. Apparently, the county commissioners attended a township meeting and proposed a plan for development that I believe, and I stand corrected on this perhaps, but I believe it was on Refugee Road, but it's in Liberty Township. And it's a rather large development that they want to put in there. They met with the township people, but they did not notify the fire department, and it would affect the fire department here. Ultimately, they might have to, I mean, if this development would get through, there's a possibility we'd have to hire more fire people, maybe more trucks. So it definitely, and I'm not sure about police, how, probably not yet, but the fire department definitely. So that's a concern, and I know that there'll be a couple people on fire board who's going to be trying to gauge the temperament of the population.
The temperament of the population it's told me about the development is less enthusiastic, but not quite angst against it yet.
I do know I spoke to one of the trustees and he indicated that they are going to absolutely have public meetings so that the public understands that this isn't them, that this is coming and there's nothing they can do to stop it.
I had heard a similar sentiment that there was going to be some.
They were put on notice
There was
that this is going to happen.
that there was going to be some township public hearings about it.
Well, and did anybody else get that Fairfield thing from Gabriel Smith that wants us to fill out a survey?
I haven't filled that out because
I don't know how, I assume it's about the same thing, that
It
how we
is-
develop Baltimore and,
Well, it is, and I've got I got a phone call from him today. James Mako wants to meet because the county's redoing its land use map again. It's
Yeah.
land development. We just did it a couple of years ago. And so I will meet with them and I'm kind of along the lines of the township. The commissioners like to tell us what we are going to do. And that's fine if they want to give us the money to do it. But so far, they never have.
so there, this and that is not the same.
It's probably related.
Okay,
It is probably related. The development is a little different. The survey is probably more related to the land use map. Actually, I got the thing right here. Hold on. It's the.
okay, I figured it had something to do, because you know.
They are revising the Economic Development Strategic Plan and updating the 2018 Comprehensive Use Plan in response to expected regional growth triggered by imminent Intel investment in Licking County.
Right, that's what I figured, okay. But I didn't feel qualified to fill it out. I don't know how.
I didn't.
Okay.
Not either.
Okay.
So
So our next meeting, we actually have a special meeting coming up on December 8th. It's a budget meeting, and then our regular meeting will be on December 15th.
if you hear anything on development, let us know.
Okay.
Hopefully they get the fire department gets invited next time. So, all right. Moving on, planning commission, haven't met since the last meeting. We should have a meeting on December 8th. However, I know one resignation is coming, but not yet because they're still in the village. We have been notified of 2 members that aren't going to be present at the meeting, which means I'm not going to have a quorum for the meeting. So the December 8th meeting is going to get canceled. The big thing pending right there is the development down here, but I haven't seen.
Status.
I haven't received the updated engineer comments on it. I know that it went back and forth a little bit. We're working on some drainage issues, but I haven't received a final word, the final review yet. So not having a meeting isn't delaying that development, unfortunately. Tree commission. And they got an update. I don't think any, I mean, it's winter. I don't even know if they had a meeting yet.
I think they had one last week. I'm not. Maybe.
I don't know. I could ask.
All right, yeah, we'll ask. And then nothing for the records commission. So we'll move on to motions. I mentioned it in service. Our second council meeting in December would be December 26th. However, council is usually opted to cancel that meeting, even when it's not the day right after Christmas. But it does fall between the 2 holidays. So if council wishes to cancel the committee and council meetings on December 26th, then that would be a good time for that motion.
Former makes a motion that we cancel the December 26th council, service and safety meeting.
For a second,
Schaffner seconds.
discussion. Roll call.
Foreman,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
4-0 passes. For the record, I'd vote yes too. All right, moving on then to ordinances and resolutions. First reading, resolution 2022-45, a resolution of the Village of Baltimore, Ohio, adopting the federally approved 2023 Fairfield County Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan and declaration of emergency, sponsored through the Schaffner.
It's me.
You made the motion to send it out of service. You become the sponsor.
Do you understand it?
Okay, well, first of all, it's actually 2022-46.
No.
This one's 45, the next one's 46.
Yes.
Oh, this is the resolution.
Yep.
Okay,
You get them both.
oh, I got them both. This, what am I doing? Well, we can't pass it as an emergency, so
First on another, yeah, just first reading. only.
this is.
Yep. So you're getting up easy. All right, so it'll stay on until December 12th. Ordinance 2022-46, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute contracts with the director of the Ohio Department of Transportation for bridge inspection program services and declaration of emergency. Sponsor is also Schaffner.
This is just this is allowing the ODOT to come in and inspect the bridges in town and make sure they're safe. And we still can, I guess. So that's it.
So then it'll stay on for second reading, December 12th. Moving on to ordinance 2022-42, the permanent annual appropriations ordinance of the Village of Baltimore for 2023, the declaration of emergency. Sponsor is McCreary.
Yes, Mayor. So 2022-42 has to do with appropriations, basically the budget for 2023. Are we going to do this since we can't continue declaration, just second reading?
Yeah, second reading.
Okay, second reading.
And we'll keep it on for the third reading, December 12th. All right. And ordinance 2022-43, which is an ordinance to reappoint Jeff Faco to the position of village solicitor for the Village of Baltimore for a term of 2 years and fixed compensation to be paid in declaration of emergency. Sponsor is Cosgray. Since he is absent, this is Jeff's standard every 2 years renewing his contract,
And that can go to further reading.
and that can go to the third reading. We'll have a lot of ordinances to pass at the next meeting. Third reading is none. Tabled ordinance is none. Anybody have any old business?
I do. And well, no, it just might be a matter of a meeting, so I can't think, Mr. Ayers, but when he had come to council and about his street, did anybody ever research that and get back to him?
I didn't get back to him. Tim, did we go? I mean,
I'm not gonna say we got back to him, but in our fortunate way things work is the power company has been in town doing a ton of trimming. And they went down Company Street all the way over and down the hill. I mean, they further cleaned it out. And I think that was more of his concern. The street itself is not really in bad shape, but I know there were some trees growing over that.
Oh, I thought it was the street that he wanted repaved.
he did. And I mean, council can always choose what streets to pave and not pave. But the sad reality of the situation is 3 people down one road puts the road priority wise towards the bottom of the list until it becomes really bad.
I think the issue too was that it didn't seem to be on our plan for the next 5 years.
Right, because it's 3 people down one road.
Okay. All
That's
right.
at the
I
bottom
thought
of
we had
it.
identified an upcoming project in the next 1 to 2 years that we thought was right.
We might be able to tag it on to one.
We talked about that.
Yeah, because we'll have the Washington,
Yeah.
that'll be going right by there and
I think we just didn't really want to say anything to him because we hadn't
said.
Yeah, it's not a-
Right.
It's not budgeted for next year.
Yeah, it's definitely not there for next year, but it's, because we're gonna end up having to do Washington, because we'll put, eventually, we're putting our water on that, so, and that will be right there with it.
Okay.
It's kind of what we're
We're trying to make it
thinking.
that direction.
Yeah.
No problems.
Good old business. Do you want us to add it to old business and keep it on for next time, or just wait and, I mean,
Not necessarily. I just wanted to, I had it, for some reason, I had it in the back of my mind and I didn't remember any follow-up on it and wanted to make sure that he was satisfied.
I don't know that we'll accomplish that.
Glad you
But-
said that.
But the road has been trimmed by the power company, and there's a potential project that it might get added on into in a couple of years.
Yes. I will share that with him because I'm sure he will come to me sometime. next week.
So, all right, any other old business? All right, new business, so we've got VA, Brian's got VA salary questions, we've got VA application stuff. There. And I'll admit, I'm kind of pigeonholed myself into this VA, deputy VA thing, because when I look at all of the stuff that Terry did. Just a chart. And it just, to me, it makes sense that it's too much for one person to do. But then we've got our applicants. Some of them not qualified, some of them have some qualifications, some of them have education and can write theses on this, but not a lot of practical experience.
Job hopping.
Yes. And then, at least for me, the blocks started to align this past weekend. Because I think we now have an opportunity to set the village up for future, just like the stuff that's coming into Liberty Township, it's coming. We know it'll be here at some point, we just don't know when. But we have the opportunity to divide this up and get the foundation down so that we can do this. And I think we have the opportunity to do it from within existing staff. And just, I'll start going through it here in a minute, but here's what it is. Over the weekend, Tim applied. And so Tim is very good on our utility side, our street side. He's doing a great job. But we've talked, and it's zoning and code and grant writing, not his forte, but superb on the utility side. Brian Holbrook, who currently works for the village, has the organizational as deputy chief and his prior chief experience. His master's is in HR, was it HR organizational development or something like that. He's got the HR, the administrative, the grant writing, the office administrative side of it covered in my view. And so I started, again, I pigeonholed myself into this view. If we were private sector, you would have two equal persons. They'd be, director level, and here's your silo, and you get a little cross bridge between the two silos. We're a municipality, and the law says we have one VA, so we have one VA, one deputy VA. But as I started to split it out, I just named them on here: VA1 office admin, VA2 utilities. And under office admin, you get the office and utility collection. So you get Missy, and we technically have a position for an office assistant. You could put lands and buildings, that's parks, pools, cemeteries, all of that stuff. Fiscal officer, HR, zoning administrator, code enforcement, economic development, which is something we try to do, but don't have a lot of, and then obviously the grant research and writing. That's one. And then the other side, you get streets, wastewater, water, grants, utility services, the physical infrastructure of the village. And have the two, and the reason I say VA, deputy VA is I would want them to have pretty much equal powers. And so I'm gonna say, you know, if it's Tim and Brian, if one of them's on vacation and something needs signed for the EPA, I want the other one to be able to sign it because I don't like it when Terry would go on vacation and have to work. It's vacation. We shouldn't be tied down to this. And to go back and forth. So I would want them to be very equal in duties and authority, which is why I'm using the term deputy VA and VA, since we can have two. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I think promoting within gives us an opportunity because A, everybody already knows everybody in the staff, so we don't have as much transition time. Brian, we'd have to work with the chief to do a transition out because we don't want to leave. He is one of our full-time. He does our evening coverage, so we want to work on that transition out of that because that's not one I think we could do both positions and something. So we want to make sure we had a good transition. I think it also helps us with existing staff because there's promotion opportunities. It's then demonstrated, and when we go to hire other people in the future, it's a place you can go and work your way up. I started thinking about it, then how does it look on the budget to Brian's question? And the VA salary is split across all of the different general fund and proprietary funds that we have. And as I started drawing out my little chart, there will be some overlap. And so I came up with the general number of, you know, the office admin side is about 75% spread across the general fund, 25% from the proprietary funds. And then the utility side would be about 75% across the proprietary funds, streets, water, wastewater, those, and 25 from the general fund to go back and forth. It would require council to create the position of deputy VA. We also came up with the police officers need to change the pay ordinance because Tim is already exceeds what we have for our VA. And so we would have to do that. I don't think we would fill the utility services, Tim's current position, right away. Because if it's not having to do all this other stuff, there might be time to do some of that utility services in the field work with the guys as it is on everything. So we might not have to fill that. And then we would have what's colloquially known as Barb's position that we wouldn't necessarily have to fill and see how it goes into him, because a lot of Barb's work was the support work to help because Terry was doing all of this. You know, the VA on that side would have more time to dig into the cemetery stuff and do some of that in-depth work themselves versus needing to do that. So we wouldn't have to fill those two positions, and that helps offset budget constraints. We're still going to have to figure out the numbers and sit down and adjust it with Brian, but it's not creating a whole new position and adding a whole bunch, and it's not as big of a hit. But again, I won't know until Brian and I can sit down and talk about it. But before I can even do that, I need to see what y'all think and get your blessing, because it does take It'll take, like I said, ordinance to create the position, an ordinance to, and the pay plan adjustment side of it. But that's,
So you're talking about 2 full-time positions.
yes,
Using 2 of the full-time people we already have and not immediately filling those vacancies.
Barb's vacancy's been open for a while, not immediately filling it, because
Part-time, wasn't it?
she was part-time at the end, she was full-time until she retired, and then she came back to do. When she retired, we hired Terry at the beginning of last year, she didn't work out, so Barb came back just to help us with minutes.
Right.
And who will be doing the minutes? Brian?
That would fall back to Brian as
And is
clerk of
Brian okay
council.
with that?
He has,
I would say, I'm not gonna speak for Brian, I'm gonna say he's probably not okay with that, but the position is fiscal officer, clerk of council.
No, I get that.
So,
Well, and we frequently send the bids out to holler at somebody anyway. don't
Yes.
we have done that in the past when it gets difficult.
So it isn't as though that couldn't be shed without hiring a whole full-time other person to do just that.
It is, but Brian's been doing a good job with the minutes. The auditor stuff, he's got down to a T. I mean, what, you were done with 2 weeks and it took you a couple days to catch up on the auditor side when you took your vacation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So I mean, if we can do 2 weeks off and catch up in 2 days, we got plenty of time from an organizational perspective to work on the clerk of
can I see
council
your,
stuff.
I'm a visual person.
I was gonna say, I'd like to see
I'm
this, this to us
interested-
visually and
yeah.
maybe make any kind of decisions at the next meeting rather than.
This is what I needed to see, who does what as you're spelling it
so-
out.
So
Can I get my
send that
comments?
to all of it? Oh, okay.
I'll make
Even better.
comments, because I need to see it,
Yes,
because this is what I was asking.
Yeah, because it's kind of, some of it in there is existing persons and some of it is job functions that could be other persons, like zoning administrator and code enforcement. We could have other people for that. So it's kind of a combination of job function and management over the people function. But if we have someone in that,
Job descriptions, want to rewrite them all over again.
well, and that's it, it's like, we have a job description for zoning administrator and code enforcement. With what we were willing to pay, there wasn't a lot of qualified people that stuck around to do it. So Terry just started doing it. So we can go back and try to hire those people or make it part of this. The other thing that I was thinking that this helps with is Brian goes on vacation right now and there's no one to process payroll or do POs. We have a VA and deputy VA, we can have someone trained to back up Brian. We can have someone trained to back up Missy. Brian, you kind of back up Missy now, right?
I recently learned how to process the daily transactions of water and sewer, but address that stuff. Bill reading or, I just want to clarify.
But Brian shouldn't be backing up Missy because then she's the one taking the payments and reconciling, and then Brian's doing the additional reconciliation on it.
You said Tim, I take it you mean Tim Little.
Tim Little, yes.
Okay, because we have 2 Tims. I just want to
Oh,
make sure.
yeah, I
we-
apologize.
Just trying to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Yes, Tim Little
Okay.
put in for it.
Okay.
And so this is kind of in my mind eked out, and I try to keep the similar services together. And I mean, in transparency, after Tim put in, it was conversation, okay, you know, here's what he's really, really good at. Here's what can be learned, but isn't in the wheelhouse, and we can focus on things, and that's where this whole.
And we didn't get any other applications at all, right?
No,
Still posted.
And it's just dead in the water.
Okay.
And Terry was really big on cross-training, which everybody could cover, so in the event someone's sick or gone, illness, for family emergencies, so that
I'm interested in knowing how this impacts the budget.
with benefits and,
Well, so we're already at the max for Tim's salary. I mean, we have to increase the upper limits. And it depends on where we get at. Again, if we don't fill an office assistant right away, and to Chief's point, some of the deputy chiefs would come out of the police until a new deputy chief got hired in. And depending on where that person comes in at. You know, if the question is, we've got $450,000 of general fund carryover, are we going to end up at $100,000? No, we're not gonna make that big of a dent in it. Especially because some of it, like I said, some of it also comes out of the streets, water, wastewater. What else do we have proprietary wise? Pool,
Well, that.
and then the general fund can all lump together. So it's spread.
Another question. Will you stay if you get that thing full-time? Are we gonna lose, not you,
Oh,
him.
I was gonna say, I
Okay,
thought he was looking at me, but I wasn't
If
sure.
you're gonna do the clerk of court part thing,
Am I going to stay?
Yeah.
Well, I know when I signed on, I said during my interview, minutes was not my forte. I mean, I've continued to do them, but I like to get someone out there to at least do the minutes.
Which then begs another question why we're talking about all this. Brian's not gonna like this, but if you're only doing the auditor, that's a part-time job.
Well, that's true too.
So we can make clerk of council a part-time job, fiscal officer a part-time job. And that,
isn't he full-time now?
yes. All that would say that the council would have whatever, but assuming salary stayed the same, the fringe benefits would be the only difference there on Brian's side, plus then whatever was being paid.
I mean, push comes to shove, I can do it. I prefer not to, but I can do it.
And you're doing a good job.
Okay, so let me understand. So Tim is at top salary. You're going to take away some of the VA from him and give it to the other person. And then he's gonna go back doing stuff that he did do and stay at the same salary?
I don't know. I don't know who in. Again,
I'm concerned about the salaries.
oh yeah, in my view, it would be much easier if we were a private entity because they could both be equal director level positions, if you're familiar with private sector. Yeah. But the law says we have a VA. So we technically would have a VA and a deputy VA. I'm looking probably similar salary ranges because they are both village administrators in my mind. Tim would do his, to the extent possible, his utility services, and you know, if it becomes too much, we'd have to talk about that. The thing that I would extend to both of them would be if, you know, when you do this, you got a 6-month probationary period. If you're saying this just isn't cut out for you, and you want to go back to your position, then let's go back. Might be a little difficult with the deputy chief if you fill his spot, but there's always a patrol spot. But for Tim, especially if we're not filling that utilities one, that's an option. So he would be doing the village administrator job on the utility side, the project management, the coordinating all the projects, working with the engineering company, point of contact for the EPA, because all of that falls under there. Then on the other side, you would have Brian, who would be doing the zoning administration, code enforcement, the office management, the building, working with Tim on lands and buildings and mowing and grant projects together, doing the HR, working on economic development. If we know the places are coming, then we can do some more economic development if we have more time to do it. That person would also be able to sign off on the EPA stuff as well. Again, I don't even know which one would be VA and deputy VA at this point, because again, to me, they're equal. But the law says we have one.
Don't we have a services director position, man?
I don't know if that's still on the book or not. And if we did, that's an easy transition.
If that's kind of what you described.
That's kind of what I'm describing, but here's why I want to stick with the deputy VA, because some of the EPA stuff requires village administrator or mayor. And I think we can get away with deputy village administrator, or mayor. The services director, I don't know, could sign the EPA stuff. But if we have the services director, that's just, instead of creating the position, that's retitling the position. To the flip side, I think in the book, we have an executive assistant position, which is very similar to the other side VA doing all of that.
So we want to assign the VA thing just so that do sign offs.
Duplicate
More
sign
so
offs,
than anything else.
backup, redundancy. And again, to me, very equal in authority across the village. You know, you have a president and a vice president for a reason.
Just so because maybe I am misunderstanding, I just want to be clear. For the VA two, I mean, you said that, and don't be offended by what I'm going to say, I'm just asking the question. So for the VA two, you're saying Tim is already over. But if you're cutting things from this position, do we want to raise the salary?
Yes, because once you get to this level, you pay for what you know and your time, not just your time.
Tim, your background is engineering, correct? Electrical engineering? Okay. So I guess in my mind, I'd like to know strengths. What are Brian's strengths, what he would bring to the table? I kind of have an idea what Tim brings to the table in terms of background and experience, but I'm not as well versed with Brian's. So,
His applicant or his
Yeah,
thing is in here.
yeah, his application's in there. Obviously here, he's been deputy chief. And worked side by side with the chief and does patrol, does all the grant stuff. What might be more pertinent is you're looking would be the time he spent also as the Bexley chief, deputy chief. You know, a little bit larger of an organization, more people, grant writing. Yes, and he
there we go, I did. Sorry.
yeah, he's done a lot of grant writing for police departments. There was his. He's done some teaching, of course, he knows everybody.
So those would be good complementary.
And he's got, I don't know that it's on here. Is it on here? His master's of science in human resources. So he's very familiar with the employment side of it in dealing with people. And then as a chief, you get the administration, but you're also knee deep in policy because police departments have Bexley's part of the FOP 9 in Columbus. So they got a policy on when you turn your camera off, when you go into the bathroom for how long it can be off probably. So very, you get the policy side. Honestly, he told me he put in for it, and he was like, on the zoning stuff, we can improve this like this, and already threw stuff out there for me. He's like, thanks for the freebie. So, and I think the two of them already in the village were familiar with each other, wouldn't foresee any problems working, backing each other up. It'd be I think a relatively easy transition because we wouldn't be bringing in a new person. I want to go out on a limb, say Tim probably wouldn't have applied if a lot of the other employees had reservations. I think they are in favor of this, and we have a good team. We have a good team.
Are we seeking action here tonight, or are we letting this simmer for a couple of weeks and then looking at possibly taking action and also giving us the information on the budget side of it, or projections on the budget side of it? Enough prior to the next meeting that we have time to wrap our heads around that.
Right. So, yes and no. In my ideal world, in Brad land, I would like, I can't do what I want to do without council taking action. I get to appoint the village administrator, but I want to consult you because you also have to approve the appointment. But in order to do this, I also need ordinances passed, which is your part of this process.
Well, we don't have those tonight.
And we don't have those.
So,
In my ideal world, council could have a motion that I can start to proceed with this, knowing that those ordinances are coming. But if that motion isn't brought to the table, seconded, or approved by everybody sitting here, then it sits until the next council meeting.
I personally think it is a set. I think we need to.
I think
Think
we're
about it.
operating fine. I think we could let this go and give us more information, and if action's gonna be taken, I would be willing to take action at the next meeting, but I'm not really willing to take action tonight.
Correct.
Well, we
I
need,
like
like
the
Jeff said, we need the
complementary.
There's nothing
ordinances
there
anyway.
anyway, so nothing's really gonna happen.
Right.
and I think it'd be, not to speak for council, but I think it'd be helpful to see, once you and Brian, crunch the numbers to
Mhm.
have something that the council can see in black and white. And say,
Correct.
okay, these are the salary ranges, this is how it's gonna affect the budget, this is where the funding's gonna come from for these positions, that sort of thing, so.
And I mean, and Friday before the next committee would give us a weekend to think about it. I think
Right.
I know you need time to get it done.
Yeah.
So if we had that information the Friday before, I'd be.
Well, that's plenty of time to, that's 2 weeks after. That's
I think there are a lot of good things it brings to the table, familiarity.
Yes.
You're already part of the team.
Local.
The,
Have an investment
the
in
rest of
town.
the staff knows you and trusts you. That's huge. Rather than bringing someone in that's unknown, and same thing.
Yeah, one of the biggest things you hear in regards to it is, who's this out of town person?
Yeah,
Why are they
absolutely.
doing all of these things? And
For
so-
better, for worse, that is.
Yeah, and I get it, but yeah.
So,
And you've proven yourself skills wise. So absolutely.
so I'll get with Brian to crunch the numbers. We'll get it to Jeff to prepare the ordinances. Of course, council can or cannot pass them. That's your solely within your purview, but we'll have them available and ready for discussion with the budget numbers in there.
Out of curiosity, so how was Barb compensated? How was she paid? Hourly, part-time,
She was full-time.
full-time?
She was full-time before she retired,
Okay.
and then she retired last December.
Mhm.
We, I guess, we hired Terry.
Mhm.
We interviewed Missy. Terry and I interviewed 3 or 4 applicants to take her job. And we hired Terry Beardsley. We paid her $20 an hour,
Okay.
which was more than what we paid Barb.
Mhm.
Terry did not work out. Barb was willing to come back to help out, continue moving along, taking care of the minutes,
Yeah.
the records and that kind of stuff. She, I learned a lot from Barb on that and when it comes to minutes and so forth. And then when Terry left, that's when she decided to be a full-time grandmother.
Barb also had a couple of surgeries in between too. So
Yes.
Barb was never working past December 31st of this year, no matter what.
So essentially, if we're talking VA1, VA2, those tasks are then going to be covered. Barb's role is going to be covered by VA1, VA2, as well as those jobs are also going to absorb the code enforcement and zoning, which Terry did some of that.
Terry did that. Brett on code enforcement would help her out when it got busy and go out during the summer especially and take the pictures, generate the letters and stuff like that and help. So so on that one, wrap in the zoning administrator, code enforcement, even though, Brett does great at it, I prefer an officer not do it for the reason I mentioned, if he needs to investigate. But it doesn't mean that we can't fill that with another part-timer in the future, or this VA1 just continues to do it because of how it's out there and can work it into the time a lot easier than Terry was able to do, having to do all of that, plus all the streets, wastewater, water stuff. Also, having two, I think, also cuts down. There are, including council and committee meetings, on average, 12 to 16 after-hours meetings per month the VA attends. So splitting it up also helps, because those they're for different sections, so you're not having one person put in as many 12 and 16-hour days.
I got a question. You guys get time. Okay, you want to bring Tim Little and Brian in as VA 1 and 2. Who's going to replace Tim in the village doing electrician work and that kind of stuff? And that's what we brought Tim in on, because he was very good electrician. He worked all three departments. So you got somebody in mind or what?
Not yet. And what we'd like to try is, with Tim not having to focus on all of the other VA stuff, the HR and zoning and code and all of that stuff, there might be time to be able to do that,
Be out in the field.
be out in the field with them as well.
Well, that was my question. Is there a way we can change the title, maybe VA, I don't know, something that he can work also out in the field, not only in the office?
VA field.
Yeah. I think.
Well, you know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
not in the office 8 hours a day. Maybe he's out, working
I
at
think-
the water plant or the sewer plant.
I think we could ask him, it'd probably be very similar to how he's doing it now, because I know sometimes he's in the office most of the day now, and then some days he's out in the field now, but
Okay.
that would be, and then we would, I trust him to evaluate and say, no, I can't keep
Do
doing
both.
both. And,
Okay.
we do this or that,
I would like you said, a 6-month trial of, is it working or not?
Yeah.
right,
Let's do some.
How to allocate the hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know you're gonna take Brian, but if you take me out of the field, you've got to put somebody back in there. But, I mean, you just have to, because if I'm completely out of the field, which I don't really want to be, we're shorthanded. Extreme.
You're saying, so if you're saying just one VA and you're solely in the office, then yes, then the
Oh.
position would have
Yeah,
to be.
so
free.
if
You
it was
can do
just
it
me
this
as
way,
one,
right?
pardon me?
You can do it this way.
I kind of like that would be firsthand experience there. Absolutely familiar with the projects, then coming back in and like being there, doing the work as well as working in the office. That would be kind of a unique role, but
That's what I always did as a serviceman.
it could absolutely be beneficial to the village.
And I can sit down with anyone who would be fine.
Was that similar to what you did at Second Area before you came here?
Yeah.
Your service manager was-
Service superintendent, did all the scheduling, quoting, kept the guys rolling.
did all the admin stuff and then also in the field. So it's nothing new. Alright. And if you have questions that pop up while we're doing it, just shoot them to me, text or your email. And then that way I can get it out, because if you're having a question, someone else might also be. And then like I said, I'll get with Brian and so that we can get you that information.
Okay.
All right. That's all I have for new business. Does anybody else have any new business? If not,
I'm sure it's helpful.
two extras. If not, our next meeting is December 12th. No one has anything else, so I'm going to motion to adjourn.
Makes a motion to adjourn.
Short seconds.
Discussion, all in favor?
I
All opposed? Unanimous voice vote. We will adjourn at 8:35. Thank you, everyone.
Tim, you can hold on to this one. I have a copy already.
Is that exhibit A?
Yeah.
That is exhibit A.
And it's all, you know.
Right, yeah.
Chocolate already?
Yep.
I'm gonna tell them, have fun. Enjoy the